Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we will be taking a look at the 2 hidden OP junglers you really should be playing to get wins in solo queue at the moment, despite the fact that their usage rates and win rates say otherwise. And because you are all very astute individuals, I will gather that you have figured out it's Sylas and Pantheon. And in order to break down why these picks are actually getting a bit of a trend behind using them in the jungle and not just the mid and top lane, we will look at the playstyles and situations that make them very strong. The itemization will show up as part of the gameplay, and of course, as always, if you appreciate the content, please do hit the like button and consider subscribing for the jungle videos coming very soon. And without hesitation, we must begin with Pantheon, and the reason for this is, of course, the current rank 1 player on EU West is Activu, and while he doesn't play a lot of the Pantheon, I was seeing it in its match history, but more importantly, there's a guy called Relax or Itax, and if you don't relax, he does in fact tax. However, when he's not doing that, he was a peak rank 5 on the challenger ladder here in EU West this season, and in his case, he's very much a Pantheon specialist. Now, the intro clips you've seen so far have been from Rebirth. You've seen a vertical jungling approach, a lot of tower diving, decent clears, a lot of activity, strong skirmish ability from the champion. Let's jump into our core gameplay using Relaxer attacks and highlight some of the tendencies that make this pick actually very strong. Remember, with Pantheon, you're looking to gank early, you're looking to fight early, you are not a farming jungler. And you'll see why in a second. So obviously he starts in the red buff with that Q. Once he's done that, he's going to go into the E so he can go to the Raptor camp. Use that to block the damage from the pterodactyl beaks before he will then head off to the Krugs. The reason he does that is because then you can look to pressure and invade on the Kazakhs, who of course is starting red buff, or you can actually make a gank on the bottom lane. Gives you prior over those things, Scuttlecrab and mid. Now at this time you will see the Kazakhs undergoing an invade from the enemy Tilia, his Corki's rotating. It doesn't necessarily go the best for the Tilia, she does get a kill, but the Kazakhs picks up one himself. Now at this stage, a challenger jungler should really understand exactly what's going on, but nonetheless the Pantheon sees this information and decides he wants to exert his alpha dominance all over the Kazakhs. And that's really what the mindset has to be, and you'll see why. Kazakhs comes around the bush, Pantheon sits there, stuns him, hits him with the Q, saves his E. However, you'll note, of course, the Corki's still around, so he's going to rotate. Now it's a very true 2v1. Most junglers in this situation, in fact, almost all junglers in this situation would probably die. And you'll see from the ability animations how he does it, but he actually turns this around to his advantage, gets a solo kill. And if Tilia hadn't rotated, I'm sure he still wins it, but that's almost a legitimate level 3 2v1, and Pantheon almost won. So if that doesn't show you the striations in his muscles and how strong he can be as a pick, then I don't really know what will. Whether it's a gank, whether it's a 1v1 against the enemy jungler, that kind of skirmish power really does translate well into wins. And yes, I recorded these all and planned this video before Jankos picked it in the LEC over the weekend. That just shows you how in fact the pick is picking up steam here in EU West and hopefully across other regions as well. He's very good in the mid lane in Korea specifically, as well as other places, because of his ability to use that global ultimate. Now you saw from the intro clips the Baker Pantheon hitting enemies with his panini and really getting a lot of action going. But for those curious about how he can do a full clear, he does Scuttlecrab after the 2v1, does a top Scuttlecrab, and then does a full sequencing from Gromp to Wolves to Raptors to Krugs. And if you watched the last video on the very new jungle route I just did, you would note that this makes me very happy. Good camp sequencing is one of the best things in the world to maximize experience, and it's just efficient, and I like that a lot. And then like a good jungler, he absorbs and holds that mid-wave experience, which is more than all of his camps combined, and he reaches level 6. Now the Pantheon really is online, so pre-6 you're looking for a jungle fight, you're looking for a gank or 2, you want to get some kills, you want an early level 6 so you can use the ultimate. There's a fight going on the bottom lane, you have a Tilia, the Kazakhs is a bit behind, he gets the Grump and he will also rotate, but at this point the Pantheon has dropped in, he turns the tide of the entire gank around. He's able to disrupt, to block, to throw spears of destiny. He hits everything he needs to do. He does unfortunately think the Kazakhs is going to die sooner than he does, and so doesn't really collapse on that. He probably should have. But all in all, did you see the range in that ultimate? That's bigger than Nocturne's level 6. There's no other jungler that has that kind of macro impact with the ult. That's why pre-rework Pantheon was so good for not only level 2 crabs, level 3 ganks, and level 2 ganks, also his ultimate was just absolutely devastating. You can use that as lane ganks as well very nicely, zoning. It just gives you so much macro pressure even in Challenger because people have to always respect it. And when you can do things like that at level 3 and 2v1 a Corki and a Kazakhs, you're looking at a very good jungle package. After that nice gank on the bottom lane, yet again another full clear and he gets his blue buff. He can get a little bit mana hungry, but that's why we have blues and we don't give them to mid laners. And while he doesn't exactly have the best overall objective control, look at what he does in these skirmishes and teamfights, and that's where Pantheon can be very strong also, obviously why he's good from the mid lane perspective. He doesn't have smite up, he flashes in, could have just used the plant, but I suppose that's just not alpha enough for him. And then watch the chase down, watch the setups with the W, he hits it on the Nautilus. And then they're gonna go between two towers. Again, he's gonna use a W. He has the E for the damage block. He has the spear. When empowered, knowing how to use Mortal Will, all those abilities, is absolutely vital. And using that empowered Q gives you a slow on it as well. So that sets up your W very nicely as well. And ultimately, his ganks and the superiority of his ganks from a level 2, level 3 perspective are on that W. That stun is a guaranteed setup for something else. It's why the Sylas and Pantheon bot lane used to work so well. Unfortunately, he has a Tillia in this game, but it can work very well for literally any other champion that has CC, from Jax to Thresh to Pyke. And now you can counter jungle, now you can do the Herald, and because you're a Pantheon and have that ultimate, you can split push. And as someone who's finally begun his coaching on Twitch streaming and been focusing on a variety of MMRs, the ability and knowledge of how to split push as a jungler is one of the most underrated things in order to climb, because enemies have no idea how to respect and deal with it. And so they just overreact to it all the time. In turn, you get tons of gold, plates, towers. You can use that Herald. You see in this situation, he's level 9 to the Kha'Zix is level 7. He was taken out of the game at that level 3 play. And now you can use your spear as an axe and take down Maokai. And if you do need that split push and a fight breaks out, you have the semi-global ultimate. So hopefully that's a good capsule of why he's particularly good. You will see some clears as well as clips of skirmishes as we transition to the next phase. If you're interested in more of this, you can check out these summoners on EU West, download the replays and of course observe them. Just remember, you need to get fed, you need to use your roam potential, and you need to use your strength in fights to actually get leads and close games out. You cannot play this champion or this jungle if you are afraid. And on the note of being afraid, let's watch a Sylas show you why Sylas jungle is actually one of the best 1v9 things in the game at the moment. That's why I saved it for last. And watch him destroy a Karthus who plays, well, like a Karthus. Conqueror, red buff, stud, into Krugs, into Raptors. You can still do the level 2 strategy I suggested last month's video with Sylas. That is still very good, but this is if you prefer a more normal jungle approach. Now obviously his clears are not as fast as Karthus, and there never will be, nothing is. But they are definitely very respectable, most notably after getting the Q damage buff in the last patch. Now the Lux had already roamed up from the support lane. Sylas and Echo think they might have something here, however the Karthus, because he farms so much more quickly, knew he wanted to go and invade that blue buff to at least try and sneak it away or at least press his Q to track. However, Karthus collapses, Qiyana goes directly in. She gets instantly deleted by the Sylas and the Echo who have to flash out. The Lux chases, Sylas hits her with the Q, and remember with the chain smash there is a second proc of damage, not really necessary here, and Lux also falls. So the W plus Triumph coming through pretty big there. The Swain supporters finally react and actually gets a kill on the Karthus, giving Sylas yet another assist. That was quite a long timer, but I don't think anyone's really complaining. Now there is a very specific sequence that shows you the 1v9 capability of this champion when he gets fed specifically from the jungle position. The thing is we have to get there first, so I'm not going to take too long to do so. Just bear in mind that we're going to reach a point where a Sylas extended sequence of AP bruiser style survivability and healing really makes him just absolutely a menace. He goes back to base after doing the top side scuttle, red smite, amp tome, down to do the bottom side scuttle, and then he can focus on his blue side jungle. And yes, in the meantime, and this always happens in high elo, junglers sort of path by each other very quietly as they sneak in to try tower dive or get cleanup kills. The Karthus does this to his bottom lane, but because Sylas has those E-chains that go over walls and have a lockdown CC, he's able to pick up another kill. But from the Karthus' perspective, you kind of want to let your ADC get this kill. You've got to have a stack, and if you kill him, the blue buff will die to time. You otherwise could give the blue buff to your bottom lane, but he doesn't like that idea, so secures it himself. Now, as we always talk about what makes a good jungler, map scaling, decent clearing, strong fighting, and either CC or map scaling. Sylas is good versus Karthus because he can steal his ultimate, so he has a global whenever the enemy has a global. He also has map scaling and CC. Pantheon doesn't really have those things, but he makes up for it with his ultimate and his very, very strong skirmish ability. After respawning, he heads to the top side, the Ornn is pushing, the set is back in base. That's a free gank. He manages to secure the kill on that, and you'll realize he is not maxing Q. Q would be normally great for wave clear and farming, however since those nerfs and changes came through, W max has been creeping up in popularity. The reason ultimately is because of sustain. It gives him really good fighting potential, the healing increases, its AP ratio is 85%, and the fact that its cooldown ranges from 13 at base to 7 seconds at max rank. Combine that with your cooldowns from itemization and you're looking at an ability that can turn the tides of any fight, especially in these crucial phases as a jungler specifically. And the reason at the moment why he is even more particularly strong is because he can take Ornn's ultimate, he can take Karthus' ultimate, beat them 1v1, and then use that macro as necessary. Here he gets a kill on the Karthus as he runs away. He also gets an assist from the bottom lane randomly because, Karthus ult is that great. And even though he dies and they have a messy skirmish amongst themselves off screen, he gets another assist. Following this, you finish your Runic Echoes. No, you do not go Sork Boots, you go Mercury Tread. You're looking for an AP Bruiser disruptive playstyle. You can actually play frontline with a W being on a short cooldown. Go back top lane, get yourself another kill on the Ornn. Okay, so there's a little bit of a farming sequence going on over the next few minutes, so I want to fast forward to what you can do even with minimal itemization with Sylas. A lot of players do actually go Dark Seal to get the measures because you can actually end up surviving quite a long time and stacking that nicely, and that's really when you become 1v9. In this case, he gets a gank off top lane, an assist, a kill on the Ornn, transitions that to Herald. You'll see he has Runic Echoes plus 2 Amp Tomes. Watch this extended sequence, we've talked about this a bit, where you stay out a lot longer than you would normally just to keep the flow and continuation of the game and momentum in your favor. The fact that he can do this without Dark Seal and just with these items shows why he's becoming more popular with high elo junglers and others in general. Some very high quality analysts in the YouTube comments have been saying that on my last few videos anyway. So he's invaded the blue buff, he gets it, you're watching the messy skirmish, you think he's going to die, Triumph saves him, the W saves him again. They actually end up getting a whole bunch of cleanup. Now he's 7-2 and 8 and you think, okay, go back to base, heal and buy. No, he notices it's almost 14 minutes. Let me go use that Herald while everyone is dead and get those tower plates. Funnel more gold into myself that I'm not actually going to spend. Yes, he stole Ornn's ult. With his map scaling after using the Herald mid, can go down and take Raptors and Krugs. When Karthus shows up, he's level 8 and Sylas is level 11. Uses the Ornn ult, kills him very easily, uses the W once again to sustain and stay alive. Now he must go back, he needs to spend his gold, he's not going to be able to use the Sylas power spike forever. No, go to the Raptors, sit in the bush, wait for Qiyana. We all hate Qiyana, right? Use your E for the meme so it's on cooldown just so you can beat her while having it up at an unsuspected place. An E here, a Q there, a W here, and down she goes as well. And yet another kill. At this point I'm actually just a little bit tilted he didn't have Dark Seal because this would have been way better with it. However, look at what he can do just with these items. Once that done, fall back and steal his red buff. Sit in a bush, wait for a trap, when no one comes, go back to base. No, naive child, no. Once you see someone approaching, cancel your back, wait for them, stack your CC with the Swain, steal Qiyana's ultimate from the side, and kill the Ornn again. Now, do I recommend this strategy on whole? Not really. You need your team to be ahead because of your actions, you need to have the map pressure because of your actions. If the rest of your laners are losing and they're collapsing on you, it's not going to work. Normally, I would preach a more fluid extended sequence where instead of just continually setting traps, you're focusing on falling back to objectives. However, in this case, the shutdowns, the level leads you're getting, will allow him to fall back to that Fire Dragon and actually secure that objective. But he will do that once he's gone back to buy his core itemization, so we can transition to that. You saw what he could do with a small lead. Imagine if he was playing more normally in a game where he fell back to Drake, took bottom lane, he'd gone back to base already, he'd have the Proto Belt. I don't really like it, but it adds to your bruiser tanky approach, gives you another gap closer, some wave clear. The Zhonya's is absolutely imperative with your Merc Treads, resistances, stasis, lets you outplay people, and by the time it's done, your W should be back up for even more healing and sustain. You can transition that into a Void Staff. You have the option of a Spirit Visage if you need to be even more tanky, but that's the itemization that this player in particular runs. So you can see the power and strength that comes through by maxing that W by clearing not too often. You didn't see him farming a lot. He farmed in that middle phase where he didn't really do anything, but the rest of the time is looking for fights, looking for ganks, and using that W to gain advantages, misdirect enemies into fighting with you, and in turn become 1v9 face roll. It seems to be a fat Sylas is almost impossible to kill and almost impossible to actually win against unless you have a good coordinated effort, because he can also steal your ultimates. So hopefully this little capsule of Pantheon vs Sylas helps you understand why there are actually hidden OP junglers. Their win rates don't show it because you need to play them properly, you need to play to their strengths, you need to understand the itemization. Their jungling isn't about farming whatsoever, but should you have good jungle pathing, good jungle tracking, and be able to use their advantages, you will get objectives, you will be able to 1v9 with both of them, and obviously I do advise practicing with them before you just jump into ranked. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. I always like to reach around 1,000 likes because it makes my beard feel like I could steal Odin's. Please subscribe for more jungle videos coming very soon, and as always I will see you all in the next tutorial.